Hey friends, we're gonna do a little core work today. And to begin, you're gonna need a bolster and a blanket or a nice stack of pillows. So let's get started. We're gonna start this class in kind of an unusual way. When you think of a core workout, you might not think of beginning in a relaxing position, but that's what we're gonna do today. So I'm gonna set my props up here, and you might just have a big stack of pillows. We're gonna start with a psoas release. So when our psoas is contracted, it has the tendency to do two things. It can pull our thighs closer to our torso, and it can lift our ribs this way. So it's trying to pull like this part of our spine that's just below the rib cage closer to the thigh. Now, if you think about core work, what we're doing a lot of the time in core work is kind of a more of a crunching motion. So if your psoas is really contracted, you are going to be fighting against your own muscles to try to let your rib cage settle down and even to get into that curled position. So we're going to start by relaxing a little bit. So for the psoas release, you want to get your shoulders just at the edge of whatever support you're using, so that when you extend your legs, you have some space between your rib cage and the ground, and your thighs are flat on the ground. So if your thighs are up a little bit, that means that you need to lift up higher. If your rib cage is still kind of thrusted or lifted, you need to lift yourself up higher, okay? Your head usually wants to be a little bit higher than the shoulders, which is why I have this blanket here. So those are all things that you can consider, and if you need to press pause to get set up before we get going, please feel free to do that. We're gonna be here in this psoas release position for a few minutes. So since this is a nice relaxing position, close your eyes and feel as though your rib cage is settling towards the ground. Your spine is kind of hammocking down towards the ground. Relax your legs. Soften your facial muscles. And as you relax, if you feel like your mind is kind of wandering here and there, you can always just let it wander. But if it feels a little unhelpful to let your mind wander right now, you can always create a focal point of feeling and paying attention to the movement of your body as you breathe. As you continue to relax in this position, you can stay aware and pay attention to your body. And as for actually feeling the sensation of your psoas releasing, you may or you may not be able to feel that today, but you can just pay attention and notice whatever bodily sensations arise. Let's enjoy 3 more breaths here in the psoas release. Okay, blink open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, and let's get ready to move a little bit more. We're gonna change the setup here, dropping our bolster down a little bit lower. So I'm gonna rock up and adjust. I'm gonna keep the support under my head, but lose the big bolster. Okay. So come to lie down, and now notice how much psoas tension you're starting with, okay? So how much is your rib cage pointing up to the ceiling here, okay? I have a little bit going on here, so now I'm going to pull my rib cage down towards the ground, and I can already feel that that's engaging my upper abs. So as we go through this class, I'm going to invite you to touch your tummy or whatever muscles we might be working on at the time. Okay, so here I can feel my upper abs are a little engaged, but not much else. So now let's tune into the pelvis. We want the pelvis to be in a neutral position. So you don't necessarily have to flatten your lower back to the ground. Instead, look at your bone structure. So you want your bony hip point, your ASIS, and your pubic bone to be in a level line. So you're going to have to sense below any lovable soft tissue down to your bone structure and make sure that your pubic bone is level with your thigh bone, or I'm sorry, with your pelvic bone. They're both pelvic bones. That's not super descriptive. Sorry. Okay, so from here, now let's go ahead and lift a leg up in the air. Okay, it doesn't matter which leg. And put your hands on your belly. And now start to take your leg out to the side and touch your belly as you take your leg out to the side. Did you feel your belly turn on? Did you feel some of those muscles turn on to support you? Okay, bring your leg back up and put it down. Lift the other leg up. As you take your leg out to the side, don't let your whole body roll out to the side. And as a result, feel around in your abs and see if your abs have woken up as a result of your leg moving out of the midline. Okay, bring that leg down. Now, let's go ahead and try lifting both legs up in the air. So, lifting the legs straight up. And now notice, how does your stomach feel? Okay. My stomach is turned on here. So now we're going to take both legs out wide, any amount. They can be out wide, any amount, keeping the rib cage down. Take a breath in. As you exhale, squeeze the legs back in and really press the legs into one another when they meet. Okay, inhale, open the legs, and exhale, squeeze in. Inhale to open. Exhale to squeeze the legs together. Keep going. As you're exhaling, you have your hands on your tummy here. You can feel what's going on. As you're exhaling, hopefully you're feeling your navel drawing down towards the ground, back towards your spine. If you're feeling your tummy pushing up instead of pulling down when you exhale, that's something to pay attention to. And I recommend maybe going and trying out the deep core strength progression on this channel. One more here. Great. Now bend your knees and put your feet down on the ground. Take your left leg up at 90 degrees in the knee and in the hip, 90 and 90. So you can do this next part with just one leg lifted at a time, or you can have both legs lifted at the same time. It's your choice, whatever feels better for your body. So wherever you're at, you're gonna bring your right hand across to your left knee, and you're gonna Push your knee into your hand and push your hand back into your knee as you exhale. Inhale, switch, left hand to right knee, exhale, push, hand into knee, knee back into hand. Inhale, switch, exhale, push. Inhale, switch, exhale, push. And again, continue. Each time you exhale and do that push, hopefully feeling the navel drawing back towards the spine. If you're doing the variation with one leg at a time, it's going to look like this. Even if you're up here in the lifted leg variation, I encourage you to still take a few rounds to try the single leg variation or the one at a time variation, because they do feel a little different. One more each way. And let's go ahead and relax. Put the legs down if they were lifted. So again, there's some variations here. If you want to keep your feet on the ground, lift your heels up so it's just your tippy toes that are on the ground. And you're going to put both hands on your thighs as high up towards your knees as you can go. And you can also do this with both legs lifted back in that 90 degree position. So you're going to take a breath in to prepare, and as you exhale, you're going to press your knees into your hands and your hands into your knees, both legs at the same time. Inhale to release, exhale to press. So if you're doing it toes down, it'll look like this. And again, even if you're in the legs lifted variation, I encourage you to still try it with your toes down because it does feel different. Maybe you alternate. Now, as you're doing the pressing, make sure that your pelvis doesn't tuck or untuck in one direction or the other. You want to keep your pelvis centered. For 3, 2, and 1. Great. Give your knees a hug into your chest and do a little bit of rocking from side to side. Okay, put your legs down. Put your hands on your tummy. Take some big breaths, feeling your rib cage, feeling your tummy expand, really letting your whole torso expand when you breathe. One more big full breath. Okay, now from here, we're gonna flip up. So you can either roll over to one side and sit up, or you can rock up to a seat. Ooh, I've got reclined hair going on here. Movement hair, don't care. So come into all fours. Probably want to move your cushion out from behind you back there. So point your point your middle fingers forward and your elbow creases in the same direction as your middle fingers. And so one variation is to keep your knees down. So you would step one knee back at a time until your knees are behind your pelvis. Another option from all fours is to step one foot back at a time, extending the legs into the high plank variation. So you get to choose where you're going to be. Now, can you hug your rib cage up towards the ceiling? So instead of being like this, hug the rib cage up. And then we're gonna take a deep breath in. As you exhale, squeeze your pelvic floor and do a shh. And as you do that shush, did you feel your navel draw back towards your spine? If so, let's go ahead and hold that position while we still breathe higher up into the rib cage now. Still breathing. For 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and drop your knees down and drop down onto your forearms. If you want to interlace your fingers into kind of a tripod position, you can, or you can just keep your hands down, whatever works for you. Take a moment to hug your ribs up towards your spine, up towards the ceiling. Keep a long neck here. And then again, one variation is to step one knee back at a time. So your knees are on the ground and you're in a forearm low plank. Another variation is to step one leg back at a time until you're in a forearm high plank. And so from here, we're gonna dip the right hip down to the ground and then the left hip down to the ground. And you're gonna go from side to side. So if you're doing knees down variation, it's gonna look like this. If you're doing knees lifted variation, it's gonna look like this. Keep breathing. Maybe you're going quickly. Maybe you're going slowly. You set the tempo for 3, 2, and 1. Put your knees down. Take a break. Woo! Take a big breath. And again, take a big breath. Okay, so let's focus on that breathing for just a moment. Sit comfortably. I don't know what is going on up here with my hair. Sit comfortably and bring your hands to the sides of your rib cage. So when you inhale, you want your ribs to move out into your hands for this exercise. And then when you exhale, feel your ribs move back in towards one another. Can you feel that? Now, we're just gonna over-exaggerate the exhale. So we're going to contract the muscles in and around the rib cage to pull the ribs in towards the spine, away from the hands more forcefully, more actively. So take a breath in, feel the ribs move out, and then as you exhale, okay, so maybe you keep your hands where they are, and that way you can feel the ribs moving in away from the hands. You can feel that space. Pulling the rib cage in towards the center, and also hopefully feeling the individual ribs getting closer together as you exhale. Expanding on the inhale and contracting on the exhale. One more. Great. So now, if you were using a blanket before as part of your setup or a pillow, it might be nice to put that on the ground for your knees. We're gonna come into a low lunge position, and we're gonna take the right leg forward. And so start out with your heel, your ankle forward of your knee, okay? So not back towards your sit bone, but forward, so you have room to go forward and lunge. So we're gonna lunge forward, and then you're gonna bring one hand to your belly, one hand to your chest, and you're gonna swivel twist. And the swivel twist all comes from your trunk muscles, your waist muscles. So we're not using the arms to force us into a twist, and we're keeping the chin in a line with the breastbone so that we know that the head isn't making us seem as though we've twisted farther than we actually have. And as you're doing your swivel twist, if you have any extra awareness to spare, each exhale, you're doing that active exhale where you squeeze the ribs together. For 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to the other side. Left leg forward. So starting out with your ankle forward of your knee so that you have room to lunge. And then bringing one hand to your belly and one hand up to your chest. And start that swivel twist. So feeling the twist coming from the trunk, from the waist, not from the arms, not from the shoulders, and adding those active exhales here. You can swivel twist fast like me, or another variation is to take it a little slower. I prefer to go quickly here. So you do you for 3, 2, and 1. Great, come back to center. Okay, we're gonna take some of this twisting down onto our backs, and you are gonna need your pillow under your head again. So get that set up. So a lot of times when we do twists on our back on the ground, we actually end up rolling instead of twisting. So what that would look like is if I say I'm gonna twist to my left, I actually end up just rolling over onto my left side. What would actually be more of a rotation of the spine, more of a twist in the trunk, would be to maybe not go quite so far, and then we can really focus on that rotation as opposed to rolling. So before we begin, make sure that your head is elevated a little bit so that you can hug your ribs down a little bit more easily. And if you find the breastbone, find where the breastbone or the sternum ends, down here at the upper abdomen, okay? This spot, straight down into your body where your spine is and back, you want that part of your spine to kind of anchor down towards the ground, okay, the whole time. And it's almost as if that spot is kind of pulling the rest of you into this like safe, stable place. So you don't always have to do this for twisting, but it's something that has felt really great in my body for this exercise and has made a big difference. So I want to bring it to you as well. Okay, so we're going to bring the legs up. And now we're going to see if we can just keep that plumb line right there at the solar plexus, at the back of the body, moving down towards the ground. And you're going to tip your legs over to the left. Now, as you do that, you're just going to go as far as you can without letting the right side of the rib cage pop up. So it might not be very far at all, okay? And that's fine. So then go over to the right and see how that feels there. Okay, some things to notice and see how they can affect your twist and what's actually moving and what's not actually moving. As you take your legs over to the side, and I'll go to the right so that maybe you can see a little bit better, does one knee creep out in front of the other? I'm doing it really badly here. So that's your pelvis twisting. and not your spine, which is not necessarily a bad thing, except that today I would like you to focus on the rotation of your spine. So try to keep your knees in a line with one another as you go from side to side. Okay, so now let's add a little bit of variation and challenge here. So we're gonna pick the hips up and shake the hips over to the left. Now, you're gonna keep the left side of the rib cage down and lower the legs to the right any amount. And when you're ready to come back up, you're anchoring down through the spine where the solar plexus is on the front of the body. You're anchoring down through there, and you're gonna bring the legs back to center. And then again, you're gonna lower towards your twist any amount, keeping the left side of the rib cage down, and then exhale and bring the legs back up. Inhale and exhale. So you can try doing it along with your breath like that. I find that I like to move a little bit slower here, and it does get kind of hard to breathe and take long breaths for me. So if you need to scrap that breath pattern, that's fine. I would just encourage you to try coming upright on the exhale. Let's do one more on this side. Okay, so we're gonna switch. So we're gonna pick the hips up into center and then pick the hips up and plop them to the right. Okay, so here we go. Keeping the knees in a line. And I'm just trying to keep my arms out of the way so that you can see what's happening here. But I do like to keep one hand on my right rib cage here since we're going to the left, because I want to encourage that side of the rib cage to stay down. Okay, so you're just gonna go into the twist as far as you can while keeping this right side of the rib cage down, and then exhaling to come up. And as you're exhaling to come up, you're really anchoring down through that base of the sternum, solar plexus part of your spine. Keep going. For 3, 2, last one. There you go. Okay, hop your hips back to center, put your feet down. Take a full breath in and out. Okay, so from here, let's just do a few up and downs with the hips, a few bridges. Balancing out through the pelvis so that one hip isn't higher than the other. And then maybe doing some windshield wipering through the thighs, through the legs. And give your knees a little hug. Give yourself a little low back massage against the mat. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and rock or roll up to a seat. Okay, take some nice, full, big, deep breaths. Sometimes when we're doing that core work, it can be a little hard to get those deeper breaths, and you don't necessarily need to carry that extra tension with you into your time off the mat. So breathe fully, breathe deeply, and I hope you had fun exploring your core with me today, and I will see you next time. Thank you.